Hi, I'm Fnaf, Boba Fett's biggest fan, and today, before we start, if you notice that the quality is more poorer on this video, it's because I'm not using my iPad anymore. It's too filled with storage, so I have to use my Chromebook for now, and I think it'll do better. And I'm planning to try and download CapCut, or if I'm able to go onto YouTube Studio, I'll do it that way. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's go on to the video. Hi, and I just want to talk about what I think about Fnaf now. And I'll tell you, and I think that Fnaf has fallen off. I saw Secret of the Mimic. I only saw one gameplay video of Super Horror Bro, but I'm not a fan of the Fnaf lore anymore. I'll talk about that now to get it off my chest, because I think the problem has to be with Scott Cawthon. But first, I'll tell you what Fnaf did first. Did best. First of all, it did a structure where you had this so much mystery of these kids being murdered, and then the kids being murdered, and then you built the lore off of those games. And you're like, what happened to the purple guy? What happened to William Afton? The big main villain that's been hyped up since the last two games. And then they gave us a big surprise with Springtrap. One of, I think, my most favorite official Fnaf character. They actually did a good job on what Scott Cawthon actually did a good job on what they're doing. Maybe the gameplay kind of sucks, but at least the lore was there. And then we got introduced to the crying child, also known as David, Michael Afton, Charlotte. Everything was going good. They added to the lore and made everything make sense. With established characters and then showing a motive for William Afton. Even though he wasn't the caring father that we knew him to be, at least he had some decency as an antagonist. I gotta admit that Scraptrap's design sucks for FNAF 6, but they did add a good conclusion to William Afton's plot, and did actually bring what William Afton was experiencing in hell in Ultimate Custom Night, that I honestly think that they did well with the villain. They first added him up as like somebody that you were curious about, saying like, who is that? That's William Afton. I wonder who he is. Oh, he's Salvage? Oh, actually, Scott Cawthon said it's Springtrap, or the animatronic if you're in Dead by Daylight. Like, they actually added a good storyline. And then we go to the dumpster fire that they call Security Breach. Good old Security Breach. Scott Cawthon said he didn't want to add Freddy Fazbear to Fortnite, even because he needs to protect the brand. I'm not gonna say that Scott Cawthon saying that his protection is a balloon. And when he was using the balloon, it popped. Because that rubber was too thin for an argument. Because Security Breach was made for the entire family. I understand FNAF world, but seriously, you target yourself to kids and try to protect a brand? The way that you made it out to be was a bad idea. Like, I would like to see Springtrap in Fortnite. Like, imagine how cool that would be. Add him to Fortnitemares. That would have been a pretty nice skin. But no, you won't add it. And let's go on to why I don't like the lore anymore. Ruin was nice, but there was one villain. And I'm not talking about Gregory. He would have been a nice villain. A villain. So filled up with lore. Kind of like a copy and paste, but a little changed to make it its own character. someone that is so an animatronic that has so more questions and just ruins the lore entirely. The Mimic! Or because the Mimic sucks. First of all, at first, it was reasonable. A Mimic that could mimic everything, and the books actually made some decent sense. It kind of had a little parallels with the security breach part, but it was a modern thing. It made sense. It didn't add or didn't confuse the lore at all, and it worked until Secret of the Mimic came out, and bruh, everybody says it's good for the lore. I think no, it isn't. Like, what do you see out of this? Like, oh, they didn't invent Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, Roxanne Wolf. It kind of aggravates me, you know? It straight up aggravates me. Because, like, with a Mimic, what they're doing is wrong. Like, they're trying to introduce a villain that kind of makes sense. But once you make an entire game about the Mimic, you should honestly think to yourself, what should we do? And you decide to add a villain that had no competence to the plot. Only their game made it entirely confusing for the audience, including me. Like, it's aggravating, because, like, why does the suit look so familiar? And why does Helpy? Like, Helpy's, like, supposed to be a fun-time Freddy. I mean, a version of him, at least. So, what the Sigma? What they did with the original Fnaf lore, it was confusing, but you could make something complex and crush it down into something easy. Where William Afton has a family. He became a murderer. He killed Cassie. Then his son died because of Michael Afton. Then William Afton killed Charlotte. Like Henry Emily's kid, Charlotte Emerly. Made the puppet. William Afton killed the kids. It's debated that the puppet stuffed inside the suits. However, by my knowledge, it might be a mixed thing, because William Afton might have used him from Remnant, but I think he's the one who stuffed them inside the suit, and then the puppet was more like a caretaker. Anyways, William Afton goes on a spree. The toy animatronics are made. Henry Emily gets questioned because of Toy Chica, and Toy Bonnie becomes a femboy on the internet. On the Rule 32 plus 2, 34. Ooh, my. Anyways, off for that. Then we have Fnaf. Then we have, like, the Funtime animatronics that brought in Michael Afton getting scooped and then becoming, like, the Michael Afton that we know. Then William Afton gets spring-locked, becomes Springtrap, and everything's set into place. Everything is fit in a small and condensed story that fits everything and makes everything makes more sense. But then Secret of the Mimic came out and just copy and pasted William Afton's story, but again, a kid that's represented as an animatronic. Come on, like, at least with the original origin, that the wife was like a big present and like the dad, bruh. Like, I liked how it was like the original story where he was poor and how that worked. It developed his character more than being like a big businessman. So what did they do? It just made everything so aggravating for the lore. I think a better villain for the new Fnaf would have been Gregory. Imagine how cool would Gregory be, being so ruthless, and people would be asking, who hid? I mean, why did he hide in the Pizzaplex? It would have been a cool idea to transition into Gregory being the full mastermind. Like, what's the point of adding the Mimic in? they purposely brought out the book so people would be like, oh, it's a mimic. And then, no. I would rather prefer it that Gregory was a villain, and then he would have killed Cassie. In my opinion, Gregory should have been the main bad. That would honestly be pretty cool. And then he could have had an unknown origin story as an orphan, and then still become a villain. And again, Vanessa... Oh yeah, the Mimic's also Glitch Trap. That kind of sucks. A little bit. Glitch Trap possessed Vanessa and turned her into Vanny. It would have been pretty cool to see that Gregory became the new villain. That would have been, honestly, be pretty cool, but they didn't do that. And you might be saying, like, what are some examples of how it could have been better? Let me give you an idea. 2 ideas. Puppy Playtime and Star Wars. First of all, with Puppy Playtime, it's condensed into chapters. Chapter 4 was crap, but at least they had a consistent story that didn't throw away the past. Because, like, we first start off with many questions like, who is Experiment 1006? What is in store for us? We got into chapter 2. We have villains, antagonists that are different. Huggy Wuggy's different. Mommy Longlegs is different. Catnap is different. Their characters are different written. Like, I don't know what Huggy Wuggy is, like a monster. Mommy Longlegs is an aggravated evil person, I think, that will just want revenge. And antagonistic. Well, Catnap is a poor soul that worships the prototype for saving him, and that brought him into a life of evil. And the Doctor? The big bad! Like, there's Harley Sawyer. You might be saying that he's not the big bad, but still, we got into Harley Sawyer. Like, imagine how cool was that? Even though his death wasn't even a good idea, because they killed off Dory the Dough Man, the literal face of Chapter 4, they still had a decent run-up of villains. They added villains that had origin stories and powers to deal with. Huggy Wuggy, not that powerful. Mommy Longlegs, able to stretch her arms out and her body limbs out, making her a big threat. Catnap, able to sport out a flammable poppy gas that gives you hallucinations that can either make you pass out or can make Catnap look more scarier and have more illusions. The Doctor, he's literally the entire security of the prison. His concept was honestly pretty decent, and he was one of the most main things of the games. Being the one who made the biggest bodies initiative. Making him pure evil. And we also have Star Wars. And I'm not gonna count the official with the 2008 3D animated Clone Wars, because after the sequel trilogy and what they did to General Grievous, I don't care anymore. I'm talking about Legends General Grievous, how he was a parallel to Anakin Skywalker. But different. General Grievous was a cyborg, like how Darth Vader would become. His death was being burnt alive, how Anakin became Darth Vader in that suit. They had kind of different origins, with both of them being wronged by the Jedi, but with different motivations that made General Grievous still look like a figurative character and still stand out on his own. Well, Secret of the Mimic takes too much for the main character. It kind of gets stale because so far there's multiple times of kids from the main people of the plot becoming animatronics. It's not unique anymore, and it honestly doesn't want to be. So, in conclusion, Fnaf was once good with its lore, now it's getting too confusing. The antagonist doesn't make that much sense, it makes the plot confusing. Anyways, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm making my own Italian brain rot characters. I'm not using AI. And have a good day, and I'll see you on the next video.